Hi, my name is Cameron Carlson with Anime on Location.tv. I'm here at Animatic 2021 with my good pal, Mr. Aaron Dismuke. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm really good. It's Sunday. I'm a little tired as always, and yeah. So, it's been a year since the last time you and I got the chance to talk. I was at OhioCon 2020. How have you been since then?
Oh, I've been doing great. Thankfully I've been able to keep really busy, despite the lockdown and the pandemic and what have you. Been working a lot from home.
That's awesome. So since then, season 2 of Dr. Stone's come out. It was on Toonami. I heard it was really, really well. I haven't seen any of it myself, but have you been able to learn some more science since the last time you and I had the chance to talk?
Absolutely not. I've learned more about the character of Senku, I'd say. But the science, I feel like as the show progresses, it's picking up faster, and so a lot of the science is just one ear in and out the other. I have to admit it. Yeah, Senku's learning more science, and I'm learning how to say words I don't understand. No, I don't know why I said no. No, that's true. There, I'll stand by it.
Alrighty then. Since you're a guest here at Animatic Con and zombies are one of your favorite subjects, how did the panel about surviving one go last night?
It was very good. I love doing the zombie survival panel because you learn about the character of a locale. Of a local people, and the people of Ohio are a decent sort. That said, we did learn some things together. We learned tree houses are about as safe as boats. We learned that if you're worried about your treehouse getting surrounded, you should keep cinder blocks up in it, and then you can drop them down on the zombies. And we learned that it's probably safer to loot small businesses than large corporations.
Yeah. Good job, Ohio. As we discussed in the past, you happen to also be doing more writing for anime. How's it been working on that, and what have you learned from it?
I'm sorry, I was just thinking about looting small businesses, so I missed that whole question. Could you repeat
it? So in our past interview, we talked about the fact that you're a writer, and you've been writing a lot more in the past year. Have you learned anything from it as you've gone along writing?
Absolutely not. No, I never learned. I refused to, in fact.
As we've learned, loot small businesses. And again, I haven't watched it, but Ruby has now gone from season 8. They're now starting to do season 9. You're now playing Oscar again and learning that whole dynamic between him and Ozpin and obviously the rest of the crew. So how was it like working on season 8 of Ruby?
I was really hoping you'd ask if I'd learned anything new so that I could say no. It's been really fun. I love getting to be a part of that show. Oh gosh, and I've recorded some stuff recently that I'm very excited for people to see. You will never guess. You will never guess.
Yeah, because they dropped a small trailer for season 9 at RTX. Well, the RTX at home panels. Yeah, they dropped some trailers. So again, Fruits Basket has come to an end and also said goodbye again. So what was it like working on that show, considering you had a different change in your character from when you did it back in the early 2000s to this more current version of it?
Yeah, Fruits Basket was where I got my start in anime. It's the very first role I ever did was young Aikido in Fruits Basket when I was 9, and then Hiro Soma in the same show subsequently. And I think when the reboot came out, I sort of resigned myself thinking the whole show's cast, and I'm one of the only people who couldn't possibly reprise their role. So I didn't expect anything from it until Caitlin cast me as Kakeru Manabe, and he just surpassed anything that I could have imagined for a new character to get to play in that show. He's so much fun, and he just takes over. He steals every scene that he's in. And just so mischievous in ways that I hadn't gotten to play before. That was just a blessing.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it, so I know that a lot of fans love it, and they loved your work in it from what I heard. So I heard it was a really well-received reception to your character again. So as we discussed in our past interview, you've I guess I thought it was 11. You're 9 when you started doing anime, so now you've done anime for literally 20 years of your life.
Almost.
I'm 28. Okay, I thought you were 29. So he's 20. He's only 28, not 29. So yeah. So a lot has happened in the world of anime. What has been one of the biggest shifts you've personally seen since you were 9 to now 20 years later almost?
yeah, once it's 20 years, I'm so excited for when it's 20 years, because then I'm going to say to questions like that, I'm going to be like, well, as someone with decades of experience in the industry, and then, I can keep it vague, like maybe it's 50 years of experience in the industry. I'm so excited for that moment, but it hasn't come yet. Um, but okay, I think that shows are becoming higher budget. I think anime is becoming more mainstream, more popular. I also think that the proportion of the audience that watches dubs is shrinking, even as the overall audience grows larger.
That's interesting.
So like dubs still have a place, but it's a smaller place in the overall ecosystem. Yeah. And so I think like we've got something to prove. Like we need to work hard to show that like dubs are like worth watching. At the very least, I think we'll always have a place as a language option for people with dyslexia and stuff like that. But I'd also like dubs to have a place as like I want to rewatch this show that I really love, and so maybe I'll check out this new version of it and see what exciting stuff, what stuff feels fresh in a different language. So yeah.
I don't mind subs. Like if it's only out in subs, I'll watch it. But I do prefer dubs over that because of the writing style. It's able to focus on the actual story and scenery rather than have to like read and watch and read and like go back and forth. My reading speeds increased drastically because of it, but like it's like that. I mean, on top of that, I really like your guys' personalities that you bring to those characters. You inject it. It's like you guys are becoming those characters, in my opinion. So that's why I like watching it in dubbed. And a lot of your friends are like that. So, as we know, voice actors cannot always work together on shows. But when you guys came to anime cons, you get to do panels with each other. Have you had the chance to be able to do any table reads with your fellow actors? Like I remember Sunny Straight one time got all 16 or 17 guests at a convention to do an old radio play together, and like it was really cool because like they were all then doing an old school like 1930s like radio play. Have you had a chance to do anything kind of like that, like go back through an old script of an episode and like redo that?
I think the closest I've come to that is me, Rico Fajardo, and Sarah Wiedenheft did a playthrough on Twitch of Doki Doki Literature Club, and each of us played one of the characters. Oh my god! Yeah. So I was Yuri.
Oh my no!
Yeah. So yeah, I was just being as coquettish as possible and awkward. It was basically just like it was basically just my Tamaki voice, but pitched up, to be honest. And then occasionally I got a little fancier because, she loves her literature and she's quite educated.
She is. I would say if you ever want to watch a really fun, go watch a Doki Doki Literature Club playthrough. It'll be fun.
Yeah, we had a good time.
You are probably, I think, the second person I've ever done a 2-pager for. So, as we discussed in a previous interview, you happen to be working on Legend of the Galactic Heroes, an old school but redone version of it. How's it like working on such a well-known and beloved series? I mean, it's definitely a passionate old school anime that like a lot of people love. So how's it like working on that, bringing it to a newer school of fans?
Yeah, it's there's such a rich history of memes behind that show. You thought I would just say rich history behind it. No, it's the memes. There's so if only Kirscheiss were here. Just like so many memes of that as like he's committing various atrocities. Yeah, it's been really exciting. I love playing characters who have that sort of manic aristocrat Lelouch energy.
Oh yeah.
That like and it's also always very flattering whenever I'm cast as someone who's much smarter than me. And they're like, we think you can bluff like you're that smart. And I'm like, oh, thank you. So yeah, it's been a blast. I really enjoyed working on that show.
So yeah, go ahead. So you also happen to work continuously on Black Clover. How are the newer episodes been treating you?
I think I can say I have finished recording for Black Clover.
So we're on the tail end of this?
Yeah. Okay. We're approaching it. We're at the last kingdom of the four, and once they run out of kingdoms, what could they do?
We go to the heart of it all.
They already went to the Heart Kingdom. It's done. So they would have to find like a Joker Kingdom or something, or switch to Uno.
Okay. Reverse.
Yeah. They'd have to switch card games. So it's been really good though. Mark's his honestly, it's just been really nice to have consistent work. To know that like every 2 weeks they're gonna have something for me. Because a lot of the time you get like long dry spells as an actor where you haven't had any like where you just happen to like not be very heavily cast in a certain season, and so it's a way to be like, no, I still work. It's okay. I got marks. And so that was really nice for like the hard times, and then he's also been with me in the good times, which I've had some good times recently. So yeah, I appreciate him for his consistency. Just the show has been amazing for a lot of actors just by merit of being 100 something episodes.
150 plus already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also got to adapt scripts for several episodes of that show, and I found its overall tone to be really fun. And it's one of those lore-heavy shows where every character has their own wiki article.
Really?
And so if I don't know what to say for a line, I just read the guy's whole story, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'll reference that. That'll be good. Yeah.
Well, I know that it's a really well loved show because I have a lot of friends that are into it. One of my friends on Discord, her name is Tales of Astra. She's gonna be on. I'm like, I'm gonna be the next Wizard King. Like she says that a lot. So another fun show. You happen to have the pleasure of working with the Hoff team of Terry and Stephen Hoff. Well, sorry, Terry Doty. How is it like working with Stephen and Terry on Sakura Wars?
It was really fun. Kaminsky is.
John loves it.
Oh yeah? Thank you so much. Yeah, Kaminsky is like the most powerful character I've ever played. I feel like he has some. It's that crazed aristocrat energy, and I really like getting to play in that voice. Basically, just doing my best Michael Tatum impression.
Oh, okay.
But then adding a pinch of Dismuke evil.
Yeah.
There's something really languid about those reads that makes them very enjoyable to me. And there's also something just really interesting about how like you can. There's an aspect of him of his voice and the reads that I do that are actually drawn from being part of a Southern family.
Yeah.
You know how like your aunts in a Southern family would be like, oh, you decided to wear that here. That's Kaminsky in a nutshell. It's like, wait, are you insulting me to my face?
Yeah.
And it's like,
In a polite manner.
well, you can't prove I am. I don't know why you're making such a big thing out of it. It's a bit unstable, if you ask me, that one. And then, yeah. So, yeah, it was just super fun.
So you also happen to work on a number of anime that feature music at the core with some singing in some way. Have you happened to perform in them, and can fans potentially see an Aaron Dismuke album?
My vocal range is very limited. So anytime that there's Japanese music, especially, they have their singers go to such high notes that I cannot possibly reach, and certainly can't sustain at that pitch without my voice just frying.
Okay. Got a protected voice.
If I were to do an album, it would be maybe like a bluesy thing.
Okay.
Or like a folk kind of thing where you can get away with sounding kind of weird and not pitching that much. But I could never do like that Japanese pop music well. I did do backup vocals for Fuka.
Okay.
And God bless Brina Palencia. You know, she really carried me kicking and screaming across that finish line. 'Cause yeah, I was struggling.
I can actually see Brita doing that to you. Like just come in the booth and just start wailing on you. So you are also in a number of shows that take place in historical Japan. When you do that, do you do any research about the characters and what time period they're in? Like I watched Meijin Tokyo, the one that you did with Ian, and a whole bunch of other ones where you play the
Electricity.
Yeah.
Electricity. What do you do when it's hot inside? Electricity. That song is still stuck in my head.
It was an okay show, but that definitely is probably one of the best ones.
It's a time travel isekai for those who don't know. So the main character is from modern Japan, and she goes back to old school Japan and forms a male harem, like you do. And her male harem she like recruits her male harem to sing a song that she has that's advertising the merits of electricity to all these like Japanese nobles. And it's a banger, y'all.
Yeah,
Um,
it's pretty funny.
yeah, it was great. What was the question? I just got completely overtaken by that song.
Do you like when you're put into those roles where you have to do? It's like going into actual historical Japan. Do you do any research before going into those roles, or you're just like scripts here? I got a mic. Let's go.
Yeah, no. Short answer, no. I'm much more likely to research a historical show that I'm adapting the scripts for. Even like actually, the most research I remember doing in that regard, that historical regard, was for Overlord. There was this moment where this kingdom, I think it's the Riestes kingdom,
Yes.
formally wants to formally recognize Nazareth as a kingdom.
As its own independent nation.
Yeah, and I had never seen. Well, basically, I wasn't sure if there was like a historical precedent for that sort of thing happening before like 1900. It's right around 1900 when like the League of Nations is getting about to be formed and what have you. 1920, whatever. That you start to see nations formally recognize other nations as like a diplomatic maneuver. And so I actually messaged an old history professor of mine because I was a history major in college. And I was like, hey, can you find me any examples of, or do you know of any examples of medieval or pre-medieval country formally recognizing another as a country? And he was like, no, but there is something that I found that's close to it, and it was, oh, I'm gonna butcher it. It was some country around early Judea, like Israel, promising to uphold Jewish like sovereignty as a state. I forget which country was doing it, but this was like in like 800 AD. And so it wasn't just saying like we recognize that you're a country. It was saying like we will protect your sovereignty. But I was able to take some of that language that they used and put it into the thing the Riestes kingdom sent.
Right.
Actually, I think it was the empire that sent it and not the kingdom, but whatever. Yeah, so on stuff like that, I'll end up doing some historical research. I also recall there being a show called, I think it was like Master of Ragnarok, something.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but I know of it. Yeah.
Well, on that show, I did a ridiculous amount of research into wheat threshing, because there was a brief description of how that works and how it's stored and what have you. And really, like, I spent way more time than I should have spent on it. I was just it got kind of interesting. I actually have threshed wheat since then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I ended up planting like winter wheat in my garden.
Oh, that's cool.
And let me tell you, it's not worth it. Wheat is a stupid, inefficient plant that only ever got used because it's somewhat easy to grow and because it's so barely edible that bacteria doesn't deign to consume it, and so it keeps for a long time.
Right.
Can't believe we're on wheat.
You now know more science than me. So, oh boy, let's see, where are we? Another wonderful show that we didn't get to talk about last time is you get to play the alter ego of Terry Doty, and of Terry Doty's character in the recovery of an MMO junkie. How was that? I mean, I fell in love with that entire show. I love the fact that Terry, you can kind of tell like her character really somewhat is her, like in some regards to it, like her coming over her insecurities in real life, and then she uses you as that way to overcome those insecurities. And the fun fact is that you play off Dom Bennett, who is then the personified version of Josh Greeley. So it's really fun that all four of you are playing off one another, but without having to play off each other like real life. So how was it like working on that show?
It was really cool. Yeah. I love working with Terry and working off of Terry. Terry's one of the first people who directed me after Full Metal Alchemist, who like sort of took a chance on me whenever I was just a teenager with no acting training. And so I'll always appreciate her. And I think she's a great actor.
Yeah, she is.
yeah, I remember getting to hear her first for a lot of the early sessions
Yeah.
because my character's largely informed by her, and that helped a lot. Um, yeah, and also I love video games, so it was fun to get to be to get to pretend to be in that sort of sci-fi video game where it's like total immersion stuff.
Yeah.
Or I guess actually like she's not totally immersed. She's just on a screen,
Right.
but they play it as if it were total immersion whenever like my character's on screen. Yeah.
Dude, it is a wonderful, wonderful show. I love it to death. I've watched it now like 3-4 times. So dude, I own it. I own the whole thing. It's great. I love it. So another fun title that needs a season 2 that I laughed out loud at, like totally over the top, was Devil's a Part-Timer. How much fun was it to go back and be a teenager for a few brief moments, talking to like the adults and helping them survive in this world that they have like, no clue how to survive in? You're like, I'm the smart teenager, but also sassy.
First of all, I feel like I'm about to blow your mind because you just said it needs a season 2. Season 2's been announced.
All right.
At last.
Yeah.
15 years later or whatever.
Yeah, it's like almost like 9 or 10 years.
Yeah, it's got to be a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm super stoked for the next season to come out at last. Josh Greeley posted a tweet that said, World's Conquest is back on the menu, boys.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I thought was very good. Yeah, Lucifer was really fun. He was he was the second, but the one that really made me think I'd finally been cast as a villain. Because he comes in all crazed and he's like, I know they say you shouldn't eat your food, but feeding on despair is so much fun. All that business. He shoots a hole through the main character's chest. He's just having a knee slap and good time. And nobody else around him is. And so I was like, yes, I'm a villain. And then I get punched to Texas, and then I agree to become his roommate / prisoner. I'm like, dang it, I'm just a incel, really. Not an incel, a NEET, my bad. Not employed in education or in training. Yeah.
Like I said, it was a really, really fun show. So, final question. You are going way back. We're going to start going way back in the time machine to Trinity Blood. You play the young vampire tasked with helping Father Nightroad, who a lot of people, I think, always forget about Troy Baker, is that he was an anime guy first before he was a video game guy in LA. And I think a lot of people always forget that. So the cool part is, like, you were, like, there at the beginning of his career, too, like, in terms of, like, the pushing Troy more further into his career. So what was it like when you got to work on that show? I mean, also I talked to McFarlane about how your voice unfortunately was cracking at that point. So the audio levels were like, woo! So what was it like when you got to work on that show?
Yeah, it was really fun, and Eon's a really cool character, but yeah, he shouts so much.
Yeah.
And Mike actually told me that I could play. I think he had me and Greg Ayers sort of earmarked for Eon and the Pope, and he knew one of us would be one. And I auditioned first, so he was like, "Okay, you can pick." And I was like, "I want to be the vampire, of course." Yeah, it was really fun, and I felt like I did pretty good work on it. Except whenever I had to scream at someone, which was way more than I thought it would be, it was just like Radu again and again and again. It was like that. So yeah, so it goes. Eventually, my voice settled. I think after that role, I had a couple years where I just kind of had to cool off and not do much anime work because, ironically, all these shows are about teenagers, but you get a real teenager in there and you're like, okay, wait, no, we don't want, that's too real.
I was just say because Mike gave you the pass. He's like, no, that was the audio on like the rebroadcast on Toonami. Like that's why he did that. He was trying to give you a pass. Because I talked to him about it. He's like, it's like, yeah, why did it always crack? And like I didn't think about it like until I met you like years later. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So, anyways, we're gonna finish things up. What current shows do you want fans to check out that are not behind the NDA wall?
Kaguya-sama Love is War has at last been dubbed, and I voice Shirogane in that dub. And yeah, well, no, I didn't adapt the scripts actually. I directed the first season, which we did after the second season, Don't worry about it. Morgan Le Ray directed the second season, and she did fantastic. Um, and Jessica Sluies, I forget how you say her last name.
I've never heard this name, so.
Well, she adapted the scripts, and she did great too. Yeah, so I highly recommend that if you're in for a knee slap and good time. I love saying knee slap and good time for some reason. It's just so cheesy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's the one. That's all I got.
All right, now where can we follow you online? I know you got a great Twitter. And what message would you like to send to all your wonderful fans that have been keeping up with you for literally almost 20 years?
Oh gosh, thank you so much for being along for the journey. Please keep watching. What was the first part of that?
Where can we follow you online?
Oh, yeah, I'm just Aaron Dismuke on Twitter.com. Yep. Oh, and also, you could have a 50 square foot field of wheat, and you would barely get a biscuit's worth of flour. So don't do it. Don't do it.
Again, Aaron, it's always fun talking to you. Thanks so much, my friend.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me.